Hi everyone, it's me, and I wanted to talk about spiritual protection. There was a couple of times when it came up recently um, online and in various media, and I realize speaking with people, in public and private, that there's different schools of protection. There's different ideas about, okay, what actually is protecting you and what do you need protection from and stuff like that. So I thought it'd be a good time, opportunity to discuss it a little bit because I've had some experience over the decades, and I can just bring some different light to it, and as I've trained with some people in different traditions, um maybe some of the commonalities and some things to kind of like bird's eye view concepts for thinking about this, because it's a different way of looking at how to manage yourself in your life. So to start off, I wanted to say that there's this whole idea of spiritual protection, and you may have heard like ceremonial magicians, like you'll cast the circle, or you'll be doing what's the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, um, throwing salt around, or smudging, or incense, holy water, all these things. And there's this idea that certain actions or certain substances can protect you. Now, this came up recently. I watched the movie by the Newkirks and the people, The Unbinding. And I thought I got my money's worth. It was entertaining. And there was one scene, though, where it just the way that I was trained and the way that I've worked. Now, I'm not saying like I know everything or this will work for everyone in every circumstance or I have some great insight. I'm just saying this is an opportunity to discuss. Since they're putting out there certain methods and approaches, we can discuss it and say, well, you know, what might work better, what might we do differently, what are some of the considerations, right? I'm not trying to just like shit on these people. If I want to make that clear. Because it's great to put it out there, then people can say, well, what do we think, you know? Um, but when they went up to the mountain and they were casting a circle, and she was putting a lot of salt in there, and this is like a nature area, like a forest. They were camping, and I was taken aback because the way I was taught, you are wanting to make friends with the living creatures, the plants, the fungus, the natural forces in any area where you're working, and you want to uh, achieve some type of rapport with them while you're working. In a lot of areas, I want to say it was Carthage. I'm not sure if that's it, but there was that famous ancient city that was very prosperous, and I don't know, maybe it was the Romans. I should have looked this up before I opened my mouth. um, it came in and they salted all the fields where people were growing their crops, and to this day, no one lives around there because it's been spoiled, right? You can't grow anything there because it's too salty. So salt is very necessary, but it also has this ability to sterilize, which is why I believe in some respects it's used as a cleansing tool. But if you're out in a natural area that can only support, that can't take a lot of salt, if you're in a brackish marsh or you're right at the sea, throwing some salt around is not going to make a lot of difference. But in other areas, it might be very detrimental to that area. There are north of here in Mendocino, there is a pygmy forest, and it supports a lot of carnivorous plants. And carnivorous plants, if you feed them most regular just tap water here in the United States, there'll be too much minerals for them, including salt, and they'll die. That's why when you were growing up and you were a little kid, you had your Venus flytrap. Between the tap water and feeding it, ground meat, yeah, they can't take it. So they need only the purest of water. So a lot of it varies by environment. And this is getting to my one of my larger concepts I'd like to try and get across, which is that if you're going to be working in a space and time, you want to try and harmonize yourself with what is going on. What are the natural forces there? Be aware of them and have some type of rapport, even if not like harmonizing, but some type of rapport with them, so you're not like working against nature, basically. Because the whole idea of casting the circle and pouring the salt. I mean, it's very dramatic and it makes a statement. And of course, this drama is not just for show for the camera, right? It helps the magician or the practitioner to get in the proper mind frame. But you don't want the drama or the symbolism or the ritual to overtake your ability to do the actual work, which is happening on inside you in the subtle planes. So if let's say that you have a strong working relationship with salt, you use it at home, you use it to help protect your space and stuff. What is possible is to, just take like a very small amount, even just a few grains, consecrate that salt, and then most environments, there's a lot of salt around. I mean, it's not like salt licks or anything, but just kind of in around in the living creatures and stuff. They've concentrated these minerals as part of the life processes or geological processes. You can kind of use that salt to summon the help of all the salt, which is there in the environment, to your cause. Which sounds, I guess, a little weird. But if this is something that you rely on as a symbol and as an ally, this mineral is an ally, this is one way that you can work with that element without creating a situation where these plants are like, why are you killing us? Which could work against your magical purpose, right? Also, if you tried to pull that in certain natural areas and a ranger sees you, you get a lot of trouble too. So that's not going to help you if you're trying to concentrate on a ritual. So that is that. And this leads me to another larger principle that I like to say. The protection does not come except, let's see, physical protection comes through physical actions, right? If you want to be protected from viruses, you wash your hands, you wear a mask, you pay attention to what you're eating. If you want to be protected from car accidents, you pay attention when you're driving, you keep your car in good shape, you want to wear your seatbelt, make sure your airbags are working, all that type of stuff. If you're looking for spiritual protection, that's going to come from you and your subtle allies, the saints or deities or nature spirits or elementals or whatever that you are working with, that you've developed a rapport and a relationship with. The ritual, and I've trained with people who have done, big rituals, like Tibetan Buddhist empowerments. I'm nowhere near qualified to do any of that, but I've been around people that are preparing for and performing those empowerments, and sweat lodge, and various meditation, large group meditations. And the common thread that I have seen in all these preparations is, for I don't know, most of the time I think, at least a week before you're starting to get real heavy before a big ritual, whoever is leading it is going to be leaning on the people that they're close to, making physical preparations, but also spending a lot of time in meditation, prayer, sitting quietly, even just like thinking about, okay, who's going to be there, what's important to them, where are these people coming from? Are there things happening in the news that might affect them? How am I going to ameliorate that? Who are the entities, like especially in Tibetan Buddhism, if you're like performing an empowerment like Vajrayogini, Chenrezig, whoever, you want to make sure that you are going to be able to have that basically deity show up really strongly and clearly in the empowerment, so that you can make sure that you give that transmission to these people that's available to them who are attending. So, and that's where the power of it comes from, and that's where the spiritual protection comes from, is that type of inner private or small group work that you are doing. I mean, you can dance around or have, gorgeous mandalas or whatever you're doing ritually, and that can help. And especially it can help to have a group cohere around certain images or actions that you're trying to perform. But the protection is not coming from the physical stuff that you're doing. It's coming from you um, becoming clear, becoming the vessel that can perform this action, even if only for a small amount of time. You don't have to be perfect all the time, but if you're going to do something like what they were trying to do in the in the unbinding, then you're going to want to be in a clear, expanded state of consciousness so that you can facilitate whatever it is you're trying to facilitate. Now, speaking of what they did in the unbinding, there are some other questions that I have, just because when I've seen people do anything where you are removing a powerful object from like a figurine, or you are binding that figurine. I mean, there are a lot of symbolism and stuff that have to do with various deities and numinous entities. So that could be anything. But if someone is just kind of going around and creating that type of object, it could be someone that, or an entity or energy that needs to be bound, right? If someone's going around sexually assaulting people, let's say, then you might want to hobble them. So, and different things that present similarly as far as visuals may have very different connotations or meanings in various traditions, which, if you're working individually, might not be such a big deal. However, if you are like in a particular place, if you're working with particular objects, if you're kind of having a certain particular structure to your ritual, it can be a situation where well, let's say you are trying to perform something and it's drawing on, let's say, Tibetan Buddhist imagery and rituals and type of beings, and you're in an area where there is a strong Tibetan Buddhist Sangha practicing, and have been for a long time. If you start plugging into those ritual structures and symbols and deities, then you're going to activate that. You may think that you're trying to activate it along your own lines and your own ideas, but you're going to activate that larger archetype. So that's why it's important to try and learn about these things as well as you can before you just kind of like plunge in there, because you might find out that, oh wow, this is something very different than I thought it was, and you don't know what you're doing. Not that that's ever happened to me. But this is another reason why you want to cultivate protection on your own spiritual level, develop your own relationship of devotion, allyship with entities that are bigger and have their act together more than you do, and they can come pull your fat out of the fire. And as far as the binding, the unbinding, the one thing that I thought was that I didn't agree with was, if you have an object that seems to be kicking up and scaring people really badly, or trying to squish people with TVs or whatever, I think it's probably best to leave it alone and to not talk about it, and to direct as little, especially intense emotional energy towards it as possible. So yeah. And as far as symbolism and ritual, I thought that, and how that relates to, how do I want to say, how the intent behind it is going to inform what that ritual is going to do, even if it's like, or symbolism is going to do, even if it's like the same action. They had a great sequence of, everyone is making this beautiful altars and stuff, and they had in the unbinding, and they had like like twine that had been tied in a bow, and everyone was burning these bows. And you could tell from the context and everything happened that the idea is that there is this knot, there's something that's bound, and we are dissolving these binds, right? We're burning them away. And everyone is having this intention as they gaze upon this symbol and perform this action. But you can see how it could be leveraged in an opposite direction, right? If you have something that you wanted to bind, and you have this piece of twine, you set it on fire, and you have the intention, and you're psychically driving it to say, okay, this is just a small material object, but I want to have this like burning, bound creation that is, burning and shining a light in the imaginal realm, right? You want to create this like burning sigil of this bound bow. You can use that same object and action to create that. So you're pushing it forward. This can, now I'm going to talk about sex just briefly, but this can happen in sex magic, right? If you're working with orgasm, you can either kind of use an orgasm to ground something, or if you're someone who can have like multiple orgasms, you can kind of use one to like drive forward to the next and to the next, and then finally ground it. And it's the same physical, I want to say commotion, physiological process, but your intention and your subtle bodies, how you're configuring that, you're using it differently. Hopefully that'll give you some information to think about that. Lastly, I just wanted to talk about Georgina Rose, who is kind of facile and problematic because she's had any number of occasions where she could say that white supremacy sucks, but she hasn't chosen to take that opportunity. But she is very active online. She talks about a lot of esoteric stuff. She had something, and I didn't disagree with it. It was just a small post saying, when I clean my house, after everything's clean, I like to go through with some incense or something so that everything's like spiritually clean too. And I have nothing against that, and I have nothing against making your house smell nice and all that type of stuff. However, I would encourage people to I don't want to say knit in those protective practices into like normal everyday stuff, right? If you have shoes that you tie with a lace or even use Velcro, the idea is that you are, when you put them on, right, you're tying your laces anyway. So why not say, I am, you can, anything that you want to do, I am binding myself to my higher aspirations, or if there's someone that you are devoted to, a deity, I'm binding my intention to Aphrodite or Hermes or whoever. And this is very good, especially in cleaning, because you have to do it, right? I always talk about cleansing the floors of perception when I'm cleaning the floor, just as a joke. But yeah, you're cleaning through your house, you're vacuuming up all that crap you don't need, you're shining everything up. And so it's an excellent opportunity to develop your kind of cleansing and protection as you are going through the house, and you're cleaning anyway. And so just think about, cleaning things psychically, cleaning things spiritually, getting everything nice and neat. And, you can use cleaning products that have, like in Okudu, they have a lot of like floor washes and stuff like that. So you can ritually, clean your floors or whatever as part of a magical practice or a ritual practice. Because there will come a time in your life, most likely, in most people's life it does, when you don't have a lot of extra energy for doing the fancy ritual along with all the shit you have to do in day-to-day life. So if you could get in the habit of kind of folding those things in together, then if things get nutty, then you'll be able to keep up with what's going on. The other thing is, if you are a medium or work with people who are like dead or dying, that type of thing, lots of times things can happen very suddenly, where, someone's going along and suddenly they are passing. And it's good to be able to just kind of catch up and be there right then and not need a lot of stuff. Anthony Nine has a Substack, I think. He's on like Twitter and Blue Sky now. He had just written a blog post about kind of oh god, all I can think is my husband makes this terrible joke about, well, she may not be Miss Right, but she is Miss Right now. And it's like when something's happening and you need to kind of get in there now and set some intention or clear something, because of course working prevention is worth an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? If you can get in there and when you see something going a little haywire, just kind of get in there and start diverting it back where it will be a healthier direction, that's going to be good. So you may not have time to like research correspondences and get a particular shade of coral, cinnabar, or whatever for your perfect hermetic ritual, right? You just need to do something right then. And so he's written up this blog post recently where you just, if you have like a candle, whatever you have around, and, kind of take your intention and knit it into the physical. Which is, in my opinion, the essence of most magic or ritual. You can get in the habit too, and this is kind of along the line of cleaning, of just when you're in any environment, think, okay, what would I have? How would I use whatever you're looking at ritually? Like I'm looking at the light switch and we have a fan here, right? If you don't have matches or a candle or whatever, you can turn on a light. There you go. You can have a clock that can represent Saturn or Kronos. Anything that you have, oh god, this is terrible. But if you have any flowers or perfume around, even like hairspray or something, underwear, this all be something that you can use to invoke all the goddesses of love and harmony. So I would say just get into the habit of looking around and seeing what you can use on the fly, and realize and get in the habit of thinking of that as a way to activate the real magic, which is coming from you inside, and things that you do daily, like cleaning, how you interact with other people, that type of stuff, helping you keep caught up with the idea of protection and kind of clearing out gunk that you don't need to be messing with you or the people around you. So I'm going to be watching this and seeing if it's worth posting. But I was thinking about this, and like I said, I'm not trying to get, send crap to these people, but it's fascinating to see when people are more open about things that they're doing ritually and magically, then we can discuss it, because there's a lot of different traditions, there's a lot of different cosmologies, different things work differently in different traditions, and different people have different talents, different ways of working. And the more that we find out about some of these varieties and some of these principles, that you might want to try for yourself, and then you can hone in on what works for you. And have those tools and skills available to you. So, yay! Thanks for listening. If you have listened this long, obviously, if you hadn't listened this long, you wouldn't hear me thanking you. Okay, I'm going to stop now, but thank you again. And yeah, if you have any ideas about this or personal experiences, feel free to comment. I'd love to hear about it. And happy magicking.